Okay, it's just a few minutes early. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Coaching Club Cafe Live. I am Anita DeFrancesco, aka Anita D. And today we're going to be talking about, my topic of my show this is my very first show, and the topic of the show is Discover Joyous Love. My background is in relationships, tantra, intimacy, coaching, counseling, helping people to find better love, stronger relationships, longer lasting intimacy, and keeping all of that alive for a good amount of time in your life, perhaps forever. So finding the long lasting love. And there's so much to love that we really have to learn and we don't understand. But one of the, I have a list here today that I'm going to talk to you about. But to find this deep love inside and to have a very good relationship with someone, we need to first find the self-love within. So on that note, let's just come into our bodies for a moment. And let's just take a breath before we start, because I think it's just about 10 o'clock now, almost. So I'm just going to have you all just for a moment breathe in, because this will help me to get my words across to you better this morning. It's Monday morning, 10 o'clock here on the East Coast, 7 a.m. on the Pacific time. And finding that love inside. Take a moment, hold the stomach, and let's breathe. One of the things I want to teach you again is take another breath. Wonderful, wonderful, great. Let's see, I have to wear my glasses, folks, to see who's here checking in. One of the most important things about learning to love someone is to love the things around you, beside yourself, the things that you're doing, accepting your life, liking what you do. There may be things in your life that you don't like. You might not like your job. You might not like where you live. But once we start to find more likes about the things that we're surrounded with, then we can open our heart further for deeper love. Perhaps even finding that relationship, that one special person in your life. So if we're surrounded with judgment and hate, there are the things that block the opening of the beautiful, loving heart. So discovering the joyous love through your heart. But we're going to talk about communication today as a factor as far as one step into learning how to activate those emotions in your body and in your heart. So let's see who's on here. Good morning, everyone. We have two Anitas. So I'm Anita D, and we have another Anita. So when you're calling in for counseling with us at the Coaching Club Cafe Live, I'm Anita D. So just keeping that in mind. Good morning, everyone. Ciara, Melissa, Felicity, Anita, Varsha, and I'm so glad you're all here with me this morning. So let's start with our topic, communication. One of the most important things in a relationship is your communication. Not only in a relationship, but communicating effectively, verbal encouragement, effectively communicating to the people around you. And the inner voice that you live with. How well do you communicate with your own inner child? So we have this power within that we can talk to ourselves and ask ourselves and check in with ourselves as to what it is that we're really wanting in life. We don't always have to extend ourselves outward to find answers. Sometimes those answers are just lying right beneath your belly button, in your root chakra, in the lower body. So let me start with communication. What is communication, and how do we get to be a good communicator? Communication involves sharing your intimacy, sharing laughter, sharing your thoughts, sharing things about yourself, and finding someone that's a good listener, someone that can listen, and someone that is present for you. So what does talking do for us? I know that we're spending a lot of time on text these days, so we're sort of not talking as much. And I find that, since I'm coming from a different generation than our millennial generation today, that when I talk and when I pick up the phone to have a conversation with someone, I feel that my emotions are much more exercised, and I relieve some pent-up anger or stress that may be in me, as well as also exercising my heart to open up, because then I connect to another person's feelings. And when I connect to someone's feelings, it helps me in my relationship with my partner. So, the first thing talking does is, again, what I just said, relieving stress. What I want to talk about is nonviolent communication. So the first step in communication is active listening, and it is a skill that we need to learn how to actively listen. It is so difficult to have a conversation with someone and just listen and hear and be present, and what I call it, holding space for that person. And whether this be, one of your children or a beloved or just a coworker, being present for someone is one of the greatest gifts of love that you can give to yourself and to someone else. I know it's difficult because we have this little inner child that wants to jump up and jack out of the box and wants to always get their words in. But if you can just sit with that and be content and wait until your person is finished talking and practice the art of active listening, and this would be one step to opening the doors to love. So holding that space will leave a concerted effort to slow down your feelings and hearing the hidden voice and hearing your partner. So these are some of the things that we need to start to learn how to, if you want your relationships to be more productive, more successful, less arguments, less conflict. Because we have a lot of anxiety in us, and sometimes we do, or stress just from work, traveling, driving, and when we hold on to all of that, then we can get into what we call an explosive moment. So what I'm going to ask you to learn how to do is, number one, is learn how to be an active listener. Number two, today, we have this intention, attention. Giving your partner or anyone you're having a conversation with attention. How much attention, it comes from your heart. So there's an intention, and then just, again, listening to them, looking at them in the eyes, not rolling your eyes, not turning your head, not huffing and puffing as if you can't wait for them to get through speaking. But just take that time, that moment, to really connect to someone by giving them your full attention. And if you don't do the full attention, you can start and take steps with that. The next thing I want to talk about is one thing that I find that people do is they are continually criticizing each other. There's what we call this defensive character, there's this blame, there's this finger pointing, and you can really never resolve a conversation with someone if you're continually blaming them. So this whole thing about being on the defense and about you're right, you're wrong, and I'm right, this does absolutely nothing for your love, for your beloved, for your relationship. So that's one pointer that we're going to stick with today, is to avoid criticism and learning to listen with your feelings. Again, avoid the eye rolling and those faces that you put on a real stiff look on the face as if you're angry at them because you can't wait till they get done talking. So anyway, that's one a second pointer here. The next pointer is to be gentle. No blaming. Your tones should match. So sometimes when you're having a conversation with someone or with your beloved and you want to set out a time to speak, and you basically want to be on the same page. You want to set out the right time. You want to have that time where it's best for both of you so that you're on the same page and that you can basically be in the same tone of your moment there. One's not angry or one's not tired. So no aggressiveness, like a balance of your passiveness and your aggressiveness. You want to have that balance when you're ready to sit down and take the time to have this conversation with your partner. Because this is another way to open up your heart to deeper love. And once we continue to open the heart and continue to understand, that brings us to understanding rather than being understood. And once we can really start to understand our partner, we understand ourselves a little bit better. And having this understanding inside yourself helps you to connect more and fall deeper in love. And you just don't want to understand. I know we all want to be understood all the time, but we have to understand if we're going to move forward. Now, another thing in conversation is not to emphasize your desires to be heard. So in other words, it's not about me, but what I want you to do is not consistently emphasizing your desires, but rather understanding what your partner is talking about, what your partner is needing at that time. There's a thing of acceptance, learning how to accept your partner, learning how to be in that moment. And this takes practice because a lot of us have this transference in our body, and the transference continually starts to circulate and move about where we are projecting other negative energies that may be in us onto our partner, and without realizing it. So a lot of time we're not realizing what's happening. So a good pointer is to check in with yourself, sit with yourself, breathe, take a moment to ask yourself that question. What's really going on inside? So that you can continually engage with someone, your partner, or whoever it is you're having a conversation with. Okay, so I see everyone's here. Good morning. It's Monday. It's the East Coast, Philadelphia here. And we're talking, we're on Coaching Club Cafe Live, and we have call in, so you can call in the number for counseling. We're offering private counseling on the phone for any of you who would like to continue to learn how to make yourself better. And my topic is Discover Joyous Love, and I'm a relationship coach and a Tantra teacher. So I work with people, teaching people how to get closer through the heart. Okay, so let me continue here. Another pointer we have with our topic today, which is communication, is to ask these open-ended questions instead of you never take the trash out, for example. So a lot of time we're again pointing the finger. You never take the trash out. Instead of saying it would be so nice if you could help me take the trash out, or you never go food shopping, or instead of, which would be better to say something like, well, it would be nice if you could stop at the market on your way home from work. So you want to have a different way of an open-ended way of speaking to your partner, because a lot of time when we continually tell them they don't do something, you never do this, you never do that, they will never do that, because that is what you are talking to them, and that is how you're talking to them, that they will never, you're actually telling them they'll never do it. So rephrasing, think about how you phrase your sentences if you want something done, if you want to make that connection. I could use more help around the house instead of, you never do anything around the house. So that's very commanding and negative. Staying calm. Usually when we have this time that we set aside. Now in Tantra, what we do is we set aside a time to what we call the tantric sacred space, where we come together with a partner and we're setting out this time to discuss whatever it is, the things we need more of in our lives, what isn't going right, and expressing emotion in there if you can get some emotional self open. So sometimes an escalation will happen. One of you may get very, hot-tempered during the conversation. So what I'm going to ask you to is when you're going to go into any type of communication with someone is to breathe before you do that, because you want to come in gentle, because you don't want to attack. And sometimes, again, like I said, we have this inner child that's hidden and needs to come out and talk. So if we could learn how to take control of that yourself and then express to your partner what it is that you need, or what it is that you need change in. So, okay, so let's see here. You're listening to Coaching Club Cafe Live. I'm Anita D, and I'm a Tantra teacher. I'm a modern sex and relationship coach, and I'm teaching you how to have greater love in your life with everything. Learn how to make love to life, not just your beloved, because love can be extended in many ways. Loving the things that you do, waking up, loving waking up in the morning, loving all the chores and errands you have to do, even though they can be stressful, loving that. So it's a choice. It's a choice to have love and happiness as opposed to being negative. Negative will do nothing for you except make you old and sick in the end. So again, coming back to statements now, our topic is communication today. Statements that are very personalizing. For example, my goal is to have you own your feelings when you're talking to someone. I want those feelings to come from you, from your heart. I feel, I need, I want. I feel frustrated when you don't take out the trash. I feel frustrated when you don't help around the house, instead of you don't help around the house, or I hate it when you don't help around the house. But I feel saddened, I feel hurt, I feel stressed when you don't help around the house. So therefore you're relieving your anger by using the feel word in your conversation. I feel, I need, I want. Usually the feel, because I want you to open up to your own feeling. And once you start opening up to your own feeling, that's when your heart opens. And that's when you can have greater communication, more effective communication, verbal encouragement, more controlled, more asking for what it is that you want. Good morning, everyone. Hi, I see Susan, Beverly, Susan, Ciara. It's Monday morning. We're here on the East Coast, 10 a.m., 7 on the West, in the Pacific time. And I'm Anita D, and Coaching Club Cafe Live is where we are here, and we do take calls for counseling. So if some of this stuff interests you and you have a need, you can just get the number, find me on the website. What my whole theme is here is discover joyous love, since my background is in relationships, tantra, communication, intimacy. Today we're talking about communication. So let's continue with my list here. Self-soothing ways to nurture yourself when you're upset. So how do you do that? How do you find those ways to let go of the world, to learn how to live free? Do you take a walk? Do you go to a yoga class? Do you find some alone time? Do you put your earphones on and listen to some really good music? There's many ways to soothe and nurture yourself. And this is something that should be practiced, or at least not should be, but if you can learn how to practice self-soothing methods, because the days are so intense and life is bigger than it was many years ago, and we have a lot of things, different things that we do. So finding those self-soothing moments in your day, and which I do, what I do is I sit alone and I just take a breath and I just let go of all my thoughts, which sometimes we have a lot of head noise, and that's a little bit more challenging. But once you start to come into the body and open feeling, the head noise dissolves. So I sit and nurture myself and protect myself that way. And then I come back to the world. You'll have to find the time. Monitoring your emotions is what it's all about. What's really going on with those emotions in there? Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you jealous? Are you insecure? Are you hurt? Are you alone? So these are the things. And do you like being alone, or does being alone bother you? So these are some of the things that I want you to do when it comes to that self-soothing, self-nurturing time for yourself. Oh, so let's take a breath, everyone. It's Monday morning. You're listening to Coaching Club Cafe Live. I'm Anita DeFrancesco. Anita D on the Coaching Club Cafe Live because we have two Anitas, and we're talking about communication, but my theme is Discover Joyous Love. If you have any questions in there you want me to talk about, you can write it in the comments here, and I could possibly talk about it. Okay. Another thing which I have learned to do from a very young age is to put myself in my partner's shoes or anyone else's shoes, having some empathy or putting yourself in there, this congruency, this harmony. How do you build accepting influence from another? So it's really hard to do that, to put yourself in someone else's shoes and really be them, and be them for that moment, and see if you could embody what they're feeling or what's really going on in them. I know it's difficult to do that in this day and age because we're just flying off the edge and we're just moving so quickly that these little things in life can just slip right by us. Things that were things that people used to do back in the day. But so just again, finding that congruency, putting yourself in their shoes for a moment to see if you could become what they're feeling. Okay. In Tantra and in any relationship, one of my biggest goals is for you to have eye contact with someone. So when you're having conversation, if you can learn how to have some eye contact with someone, and it doesn't have to be fully throughout the conversation, but even with your beloved, this eye contact can help to open the heart and can help dissolve the ego and can help connect you more to your emotions. Eye contact is very important for lovemaking because, or even just out of the bedroom, because sometimes when you're not connecting with the eyes, the armor builds up in the body, and the lower part of the body can become armored, is what we call, and then shifts happen, and this is how defensive character starts to become in someone, or blaming type characters, because they split off from their feelings. So eye contact is one of the very first segments that we want to open up to connect to the chemistry of the body. And the next thing I'm going to talk to you about is showing or sharing appreciation with someone. Appreciation is, it contributes to a variety of positive feelings. Now, what does that mean? Have you ever told your partner, I appreciate you for what you do. I appreciate the things you do for me. I appreciate that you're in my life. I appreciate you just awakening with me every day. So appreciation is something that you have to verbalize. You may show the appreciation, you may show it with your actions, and that's wonderful. But if you're not using words, this again, the verbal encouragement, if you're not using the words, it may not really mean as much or come across as showing the appreciation. So maybe this week you can tell someone you appreciate them for just being them, or even something about them. I appreciate your beautiful coat you're wearing, or I appreciate, the way you ski, or whatever it is they're doing, because appreciation is a word that takes us to the bliss. And that's where we want to go, that blissful, happy personality. So coming back to arguments and conflict. Now, conflicts, they contribute to growth. So we need to have good argument now and then. But a productive argument, are your arguments, solidified? Are they resolved? Or at the end, are you holding a grudge and walking away and hating each other and not coming back together for another week? The argument should never end that way. The conflicts, there should always be, like I said, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the ending doesn't mean you're on the grudge for the next month. And this happens all the time. I see this with people. They hold these grudges forever, and then all of a sudden they're back in love with their partner. But that is just not, I never do that, because I don't feel that that makes me more numb, more armored, and takes me away and disconnects me from myself and disconnects me from my partner and people. So if you can have a smooth, nurturing closing of your argument, ending the argument productively. Again, the argument is good for growth. Validating, apologizing in a gentle manner. If there was something your partner said or the person you're communicating with, doesn't have to be a beloved, it could be anyone, a girlfriend or whatever, in a gentle manner, telling them that you're sorry with your words. I'm sorry. Validating from your heart. And in a gentle manner, changing conversation. So when I have a conversation with someone, I always find that people jump off the page. And they're constantly switching. Our minds are shifting so quickly that I'm in one conversation and they're on another conversation. So I think it's important to, again, have that beginning, middle, and ending of one conversation, finishing that thought, that topic. Not that it's the all end, because none of these things, they're always works in progress, all of these things. But categorizing the way you think and the way you lay things out so that the mind is at ease, the body connects to the mind. And once you're connecting and you're at ease, then you can have a clarity, more clear thought of what's getting rid of the old pain that's living in your body. But learning how to apologize in a kind, gentle way. Using humor to lighten up, laughing at your situation. Sometimes I find I could be in the biggest conflict argument with a friend, and then all of a sudden I burst into laughter just as a comic relief, because when you think about it, it's really all so silly, right? So the silliness helps relieve some of that stress. Laughing, learning how to laugh, connecting to the natural high that's in your body, the bliss. And the more you express those emotions, the more you will feel the laughter and the joy that lives in your heart. This is a big one now. Letting go of political correctness. I'm right and you're wrong. If your relationship is based around politics or right and wrong, you might as well walk away from it right now, because you both need work. So this is what I'm finding, that people are so into this competitive, male-female competitive kind of thing. I'm right, you're wrong, and they disagree on certain views in the world. Yes, but if you're disagreeing politically on things, I don't really think that politics should really be in your relationship. As far as lovemaking, that's sacred, that's spiritual. And I think that has a place of its own, without politics, without interference. Of course those things are going to be there, and we have no choice but to be a part of what's going on in the world. But my theory is, when it comes to love, let it be love. Stay on that page. Alternatively, you can also agree to disagree. So that's a good one. Agreeing to disagree. Because I know that sometimes when you're in, again, this argument, this conflict, this discussion with your partner, it's hard to agree. It's hard to. So agree to disagree. And then that will make it, again, much more nurturing for each other. Sometimes touching your partner, touch the hand, touch the arm, because people can escalate, get into that heated discussion that boils up, and then it explodes, and then we haven't really accomplished anything except an argument. So think back on when you were growing up. Did you come from an argumentative family, or or every relationship you had, was it always a fight? Was it always that struggle, that push, that pull? We do have a push and pull in a relationship, but the push and pull should be the natural flow, the natural ebb and flow of love and the heart and sexuality and all that stuff. But if there's that push and pull to find, to be right, and to that operates from the ego, then you need some work to come down into your body to connect to that soul. So sometimes, again, in conversation, touching that person, the hand, the arm, is always a nice gesture. Finding the common ground, the sacred space. So always having that time, it's the right time for you and your partner to come together, to talk. Setting the time. So I'm going to just summarize some of the things here that I come up with. I didn't talk about acknowledging, but acknowledgement is also another important factor in acknowledging each other. You know, giving that person that confidence. When you acknowledge them, it does give confidence. But again, think about all of these things, how great your lovemaking will be. If it's a relationship that you're in communication, or even other things, how much more successful that you can become when you have the tools of communication that involve love. So eye contact is number one. Acknowledging your partner, appreciating your partner, non-defensive character, non-defensive, non-blaming, non-violent. So get away from the defense, because the defensiveness will create armor in your shoulders and your heart, as well as your brain, and then the blaming will push your partner away. I feel. What is it that you feel today? I feel like we need to do something. I feel. So using those I feel words just to open up to your heart again, and always thanking your partner. Sometimes we take things for granted over time, and thanking the partner or anyone, you know, whatever it is doing. Thank you for dinner, or thank you for doing this, or thank you for showing up. I always like to say thank you, because I don't think people say it enough, and then everything becomes for granted. And that's what happens in relationships. They take each other for granted, and they lose that spark because of the taking each other for granted. Face-to-face is always a good way to talk to someone. No pointing the fingers. And just having your voice, staying on the same page, breathing and having your voice with your partner. And that is all that I have for you today in the topic of communication. I'm Anita D, and you're listening to Coaching Club Cafe Live. My theme is Discover Joyous Love, and I'll be here on Mondays with you at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time. And if anybody has any comments or questions they want to talk about or ask right now, I'm looking here if you have a specific question in mind. Otherwise, I'm going to thank you all for tuning in, and hope to connect with you at a later point. Thank you very much, and have a beautiful Monday.